response to those difficulties was always to find creative response that were even better and made the film better. So the film is also the result of that.
I wanted to ask you how the structure, present the structure, how it looked at the end. And what did you do where?
At the end, the structure is the one we had in mind. I mean, it's more or less a little bit more than 50 from France, 50% from France, 30 from Germany, and 20 from Belgium. This is what we had in mind from the very beginning, in fact. A little bit lower, that means that we were aiming 11 million, and at the end we got 9.3 million budget euros to do the film, which was not that bad, but not totally enough. So it was really tough to get in every situation, because when we had the answer from Eurimage, we had a last solution appeared. It was end of June. We were supposed to start shooting in July, so we decided to move the beginning of shooting in September. But end of June, we had answer from another region from Germany, who brought NRW, who brought 300,000 euros, meaning we had to spend 600,000 euros in this new area. We had to find 6 days of shooting, 7 days of shooting in this area. We had to find equipment and industry in this area. So suddenly had to reorganize everything. We needed this money, so we couldn't avoid this. But once again, it was for Raoul to find other locations to go with these obligations. So this was something that was very difficult for all the crew, for the set decorator, for everyone to because including this, you have to find the crew from this region. That means suddenly you have to tell to the director, okay, you have to find a DOP from this region. It's not the DOP, you don't look on the DOP you want. You need to have this in mind. So that means it makes all more complicated. To find an editor in this was Belgium. We needed, because we decided not to have expenses in France, since France didn't ask for that. France only asked for French-speaking film. So that means Raoul had to find a way to be sure that we had more than that French was majority language in the film. So it's another artistic obligation, not that easy, and Raoul was still working on the script in the hotel just before shooting, just to be sure we were in the right obligation for France. But on the other side, they didn't ask for expenses from France. So we put almost everything in Belgium and Germany. So that means for Raoul to work with people he did not know, with people he had to meet through Skype meetings, blah, blah, blah. It's not that easy. It's not easy to work this way. And at the end, post-production, was we had to do images there, sound here, editing there. So many places, many people talking this broken English we all know, and have to find the way to understand each other, to say okay, and to meet through Skype, through mails, which doesn't make things very easy in the making of the film.
But I have to ask, how many shooting days and where?
You know, I don't remember.
So in the end, 43 shooting days, 23 in Germany and 20 in Belgium. And in Germany, we really moved from the very, very west of Germany to the very, very east. We were shooting on the Dutch border. That's where we started for 6 days, and then we moved in several steps to Görlitz, which is the border town to Poland, and then up again to Brandenburg, where we shot another, I think, 7 days. So there was huge traveling. We had a lot of huge trucks going over Germany, and that was a logistical
and drivers, and that cost a lot, in fact.
I wanted to ask, what was your budget only for the fuel?
Yeah, no, what I would say, what is good is that, in fact, the fact that we were all independent companies used to produce a film with a lot of energy rather than a lot of money. So we could find anytime solutions to go further, but it still was difficult. But we could do the film at the end, and I don't know, Raoul would say, we don't have a lot of regrets in what we got at the end. Location were great, because costume, it was crazy thing, since the only costume we could find was in Spain. Totally forbidden to spend any money in Spain. So how to do that? So will the German company will hire the costume from it? We have to invent so many things and to lose so much time. But at the end, we got the costumes.
One advantage was that, by example, my costume designer, Paul Mangenot, she did 5 films with me. So she knew the project from the first draft, meaning she had almost 7 years to think about it. So the way she works is she knows, where there are that amount of costume in Belgium or in Germany or in France. And sometimes she would reserve, or she would think prior, or she would reserve certain elements. So by the time we had to make all those last moment change, she had the whole catalog of possibilities. So that helped as well. And that you can do with people who've worked with you on many projects, and so who knew what you wanted and were flexible. And there was also some trust, because I didn't have to follow her all the time. I know how she works as well. I know what quality she will deliver to me, so I don't have to watch over her shoulder all the time, to have meetings with her, to find out, to see the list. All this, I could use my energy toward other things.
But how difficult it was to find actually actors who can act both in German, English, and French?
Well, if we were looking for French actors speaking German, that would have been terrible. But hopefully there was a lot of young German actors who spoke not only French, but also English. So I was lucky to have a large choice for most of the roles. Auguste Deal was very early on the project. I knew he spoke fluently all 3 languages.
An actor, German actor, who's very well known in Germany. Is really somebody that.
So who plays
one of the
Karl
few
Marx.
actors that's really helped us to put also the money together.
I wanted to ask, was it important for you to have him in the role? Because I know it is not a typical film, you don't fund based on the cast, but...
Yes, it definitely helped. And as I said, it's usually in Germany there are not many actors that really would finance a film, and August doesn't really finance that film, but it was very good to have him, because it was obviously a very, very, very good and solid choice.
Well, I just wanted to say that the whole casting process was something. It was very long, and so we had both a casting happening in Belgium and one in Germany. And especially in Germany, it was crazy, because we had one casting director, German casting director, and then he was, working on all those regions to find the actors coming from the region that were, funding the film. So that was the priority. But of course, when Raoul find the proper actor, it's not up to him to say, oh, well, he comes from the good region or not. So that was difficult. And the consequences of the financing on the artistic decision were, huge, and that was on a daily basis. So as a producer, I think as producers, it's that's tricky, that's difficult to to have to impose that to your director on a daily basis, you know, when you find a location, when you want an actor, when you want a technician, when you want whatever, you know, you have to refer to where you have to spend the money, how, you know, so that's very heavy.
And I think that this was possible because Raoul was really co-producer. I would not have produced the film without this implication, because how to explain to a director all this tricky stuff that you have. I know this actor, you loved it, but it's too bad because now we need to find, because we are missing some expenses in NRW, so you need to find an actor. So it's totally impossible to understand if you are not in the process of financing. So Raoul was in the process of financing, he was aware of everything, so we could have these discussions that sometimes it's very difficult to have with a director because it's far from this aspect. And in this film, I would say, as producer, sometimes what was difficult was that we were always talking about money, about this is not possible because we need to spend the money there, because if not, we won't have the rebate we need. So we were always constantly having question of money in mind. So I think without complicity of the director, it would have been a nightmare.
Unfortunately, the money we missed, the money that didn't come in, was the free money that would have been enabled, that would enable us to work more freely. And that was the money that we were missing. So that there are at least two kinds of money in this film, one with more strings attached than the other. And when the free money is missing, then it's getting, or it's too tight, then it's getting very complicated.
And maybe one idea that I don't know for the German structure, I think they have to, because of the federalistic structure of the film industry here, that there should be some sort of state sponsor compensation fund, you know, that would compensate for those problems so that you don't have, you know, at a later stage of your production to deal with all those problems, which can make the film really bad. You know, as Nicolas said, for me, I was a producer too, so I could understand that. But I can imagine a colleague director, at some point, he will say, you know what, you know, I'll just do a film for you, but I won't invest all my energy in that crazy back and forth. So I think there should, you know, be some sort of solution.
But there is. This is the DFFF. That's the tax fund that was also there. I mean, there are 3 regional funds, which was about nearly 50% of the German financing, and then there's the DFFF, the tax rebate fund, with about 860,000 euros. That was the hugest fund we had, but still, you know, it wasn't enough. So, Eurimage or FFA money would have made it easier, but
a structure that can help us compensate the problem with the actors, problem with the crew, problem with location, last moment, you know, so that we don't have each time to calculate, you know, let's make sure that, you know, we do all the necessary demands of each region, you know, that once you, let's say you do 80% of the requirements, so that the 20% that you can have more freedom, and that could go through a, you know, a central funding or a central, you know, technical place where, you know, not to have this crazy, you know, calculation toward the end.
I would add some difficult point for the one who, for producers who have to handle this kind of project. This is, and I think we are very lucky as French producer, and we are very lucky as Agathe Film in France. Our situation is that we are very close to the bank and to the credit companies, because we have credit company in France, in fact. Because when we started shooting, we had no contract almost. Because when you are working with this big number of lenders, you have a lot of complicated agreement to do, and the agreements came, I think, 1 month later, the first day of shooting. So that means how to pay for that, because on a period film, you can imagine what is the cost of preparation, and then the cost of first week of shooting, and the cost, of course, of reserving everything. So it's huge amount of money you have to pay in advance. So how to do that without, we had the complicity of Kofi Loisir, who was very close to our company because we worked for years and they know us, and so they trusted us, even if they didn't have the contract. So really, this situation was a little bit of crazy situation for a company that can really kill a company, in fact. So it didn't happen, but really this is something that we need to have in mind, because at the end of the day, you are fighting strongly to get the money, but then it has to come at the right time. And you always know that people come if they feel that the shooting is very close, in fact. So unless it's close, they are taking care of other projects, in fact. So you just advance very late, and so we decided suddenly in July, we decided to postpone the shooting of 4 weeks. It was in July or August. So we had to change first edit. You know, everything is to do it at the last time, and at this time you pay, but from where? Where does the money come from? So this is another point that is difficult and that we need to have in mind, because suddenly you have to pay, of course, you have to pay for the people, you have to pay for the people on board, etc., and to reserve and to pay for the costume, because costume, you know, there were many films, period films of this period in preparation at the same time. So it's only 1 or 2 locations in Europe who have this kind of costume. So you need to pay for very early. So the financial aspect is very, you have to have in mind, and it was quite complicated in this film too.
But just to close on a kind of happier note, the film is having its world premiere tonight, and it's going directly to the German cinemas, basically, just after.
It's going to open. It's going to open on 2nd of March in more than 300 cinemas. So all the difficulties in putting the money together in Germany resulted in a very, very good combination of partnership with the distributor Neue Visionen, who's fully behind the film. It's the biggest release that they do in their history. And luckily enough, in the past years, they were very successful with some French comedies in Germany, and now put all their effort and some of the money they earned in this film.
And in France?
In France, the distributor is Diafana, which is a very good independent distributor, and the film will be released either in September, just for after the summer, or maybe before. Well, we still are working on the right date.
If you have any questions, please, now would be the time to ask to our guests. Otherwise, we would let them go and do whatever they need to do before the world premiere of their film. So they have been very kind and save us the time for this conversation. The TV series.
Which one are you talking about?
It was mentioned.
No, we didn't.
No.
That was a project.
No, we didn't do it. It was very complicated, you know, to at the same time that meant having a 3 hours, 4 hours film, and at the same time. So we decided it was too complicated, and in France it's very different, the money from TVs and from movies, so all this made it very complicated. But we heard 6 months ago that there were a mini-series being produced by the first producer we worked with in Germany, so we are happy that it gave him good idea to work on a series about the same topic. But
important
we
to
won't
say,
be part of it.
now we are playing with the idea as well. Because when you work 10 years on a project, basically we have written the whole story from Karl, 12-year-old Karl, until the part where he's in London in their 30s. So we basically already have 7 hours of written material. So we'll see how the film goes, well or not, and we still can decide to make a mini-series somewhere.
Do you have a message to deliver with this film? in this very complicated situation in which we are living with Karl Marx?
I don't have any message, but I made this film because I think that it's important today to come back to the fundamentals in a world where anything goes, where opinions are more important than the work of a scientist who worked 50 years of his life on a subject, and that we need to come back to the one person who really analyzed this particular historical society we live in, which is the capitalistic society. It's an historical society. It was not like this before, and it's not going to be like this after. So those fundamentals analysis are the one that are still, you can still use, the instrument that Marx in particular delivered to us, or the instrument that you can use today to analyze the present society.
Well, we certainly hope to, but we don't know yet. I mean, film distribution, so the sales agent is starting the work, obviously, on the EFM market now. So we don't know yet, but hopefully, yes.
But he knows that it's difficult in certain countries.
Well,
I know already knows, but the film. I think that the script. People feared the script rather than the film at the end. This is what we experience with German distribution, because to say the words, he gave a very little amount of money to get the film, because the film was that difficult, blah, 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 blah. And the French one put a lot of money at the same time for the same film. And at the end, the release in Germany is huge. So I guess the film at the end is not, it's easier to release than what people feared and what people imagine. I don't know how it came, but obviously in Germany you can see that.
And the story is basically, it's not a dogmatic film, it's the story of three young people who, in a Europe of repression, in a Europe of huge inequality, Europe of famine, who just decided they wanted to change the world. And it's just the basic story of three young geniuses, because Marx was a young genius, 19, and a PhD in philosophy, and feasting with the most important brands of the time, criticizing Hegel, criticizing Feuerbach, the biggest philosophical minds of the epoch. This is a major moment and major story for young people today.